Hey loves. Today I wanted to spend some time reflecting and talking a little bit more about how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected me personally. I'm going to focus on more positive things than negative things, but I want to just stop and acknowledge that this pandemic is a global health crisis that has affected many people worldwide. There have been more than 500,000 deaths at the time that I'm recording this video, and more than 11 million cases of people who've been infected with COVID-19. And I also want to add that I am one of the very privileged people during this time who's come out relatively unscathed. I still have my job. I've been working remotely this whole time. I have not lost any income. I have not lost any loved ones. And yeah, I just want to share that there are a lot of people who are dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of struggles and a lot of challenges during this time. And at the end of this video, I'm going to link to some organizations that I have donated to personally because I'm in a position to be able to do that. And if you find yourself in a position to be able to call yourself privileged and lucky and employed with money and resources, then I ask you to please consider doing the same. So without further ado, I'm going to share 19 things, for better or for worse, that have changed in my life during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the first thing that I've noticed is that I'm working out less, but I'm moving a lot more. My gym opened up again, but I just don't feel comfortable going. So I haven't weightlifted in 3 months, and I haven't done any formal workouts in 3 months. But what I have been doing is that I have been moving for pleasure and for fun. I've been going on a lot of walks. I've also been dancing more. I've been doing some more yoga. I've just been doing more pleasurable movement, but not necessarily working out. So the second thing that I've noticed is that I'm eating more balanced and yummy meals. One of the things that I remember I used to do when I was working out of my home is that I would pack really quick lunches and just throw it all into a lunchbox. I was always in a rush. And now during lunch, I take the full hour and I prepare something. It's been a really nice midday routine after working for a couple of hours, just putting together something delicious. All right, the third thing that I've noticed about this time is that I have friendships that are evolving. Now that I'm in my apartment all day, it's more democratic, really. I just speak to whoever is in my phone who wants to speak to me rather than whoever I see daily or weekly. And that's been a nice little blessing to reconnect with people. One of the things that I feel that has changed is that I'm more open and willing to do creative projects. Prior to the pandemic, I felt that creativity was a little bit of a luxury, but now I'm seeing it's a necessity for my own well-being. And I'm a lot more open to expressing myself in new ways. As an example, this YouTube channel is something that I started during quarantine, and it does take a lot of time, and it's time that I now have, whereas before it would have not happened, frankly. My partner and our relationship has evolved a lot during this time. At the beginning, it was really challenging. We were fighting a lot and getting used to this new amounts of time being together. I was afraid that we were going to be fighting all the time, as we were the first couple of weeks. But one thing that really helped is we made a list of chores and we divided them. And that came from one of my closest friends who's a psychiatrist. And she kept on encouraging me to make sure we did that because I continuously felt like I was the housewife and that I was doing all the housework in addition to working a full-time job. And once we made that list and clarified who did what, that really solved a lot of our points of friction. Speaking of points of friction, darkness has come up more often. Pre-quarantine, I used to be busy all the time. My life was so frantic. Every minute was accounted for from 7 a.m. to midnight when I would go to bed. But in a way, I feel like that was almost an avoidance technique. And I think a lot of people use it. But during this time, we are forced to slow down and stop and be. And therefore, things that maybe we were pushing down under the surface are like popping up and they're like, hey, I'm here, deal with me. Luckily, I have felt a little bit more empowered to work through it because I started seeing a therapist during quarantine because luckily I have really good health coverage and really good health benefits. And that's been very helpful for me to work through some of the dark things that have been coming up that I don't know how to deal with myself. Another thing I've noticed is that because I'm more bored and more lonely, I've been a lot more open to the idea of having children. I'm being very cognizant of this fact because I know that pre-COVID, I did not want to have kids anytime soon. And I find it very curious that within 3 months, I'm now totally on the kid train. 3 of my friends are now pregnant and more friends of mine are trying to get pregnant. So I don't think this is only a personal thing. I am noticing and appreciating things that I used to take for granted. For example, I'm enjoying peaches so much right now because that's a summer fruit and I'm just eating as many as I can. It's mango season in Miami. I'm trying to eat as many mangoes as I can get my hands on. In the past, those were things that were just such a blip in my life that I didn't pay attention to, and I find myself paying a lot more attention to them. My sleep schedule has changed, mostly for the worse. I've had a little bit more trouble going to bed at a decent hour and waking up at a decent hour. However, I will say that the positive side of that is that I do feel a lot more well-rested. I used to always feel like my voice wasn't enough. If I was upset about something, I felt like it was only going to be me and that there was nothing I could do to change it. But during this time, I have seen the power of people en masse, and it's given me a little bit more of a renewed faith in my sole ability as an individual to change things. My style has absolutely changed. I used to wear a lot of tight jeans and cute tops, heels, mini skirts, dresses, and that's because I was going out into the world. And now my style's become a lot more relaxed, as you can see. Comfort is 100% of utmost importance when it comes to quarantine wear, and I've noticed that that is more important to me. Speaking of being more relaxed with my look, I've also been wearing a lot less makeup. I have found that my skin's really enjoying the break from continuous foundation wear. I'm also spending more time on my skincare routine, which I'm really enjoying. It feels like a really nice act of self-care. I'm learning how to do things that I didn't do before. I used to get pedicures and now I'm having to give them to myself. Oh, poor me. I'm doing a lot of things that I used to outsource to others. And do I like that? No, I love the ability to outsource things, but it's a necessity, so whatever. I've started a meditation practice during quarantine. It's helped me to feel a little bit more composure in these times of uncertainty and feel calmer. I've been playing around a lot with boundaries and creating better boundaries. For me, I've become clear that given that I work out of home and I have fun out of home and I exercise out of home and I basically do everything here, that it's really important that I have clear delineations of those parts of my life. Particularly, I have a set schedule for when I work, and I very rarely will break that schedule because I know how important it is for me to end at a certain time so that I can begin to do other things. And boundaries have become particularly important and vital for me to enjoy my life at home. Unfortunately, I've been watching a lot more TV. I've gotten really addicted to this Turkish TV show that has 400 episodes and each is an hour long. I'm on episode 40. When I think about it too much, I'm like, oh my gosh, I spent 40 hours watching this TV show. That doesn't feel so great, but I'm also trying to be kinder with myself and acknowledge that sometimes an escape is just a delicious thing and to embrace it, when I can. I am less tolerant of clutter. And lastly, number 19, I think that one of the things I've noticed is that where we get our news is so important. And because everyone's on social media, there is the possibility or the ability to read whatever you believe and only get that information. And it's really important that we question and ask ourselves if what we are reading, watching, or listening to is legitimate and credible and has the proof to back it up. So for better or for worse, and I think it's for better, I have been a lot more choosy about what kind of media I choose to consume, who I believe, and who I follow. What I mean by that is that they have facts to back it up or science to back it up, and credible sources. All right, so those are my 19 things. Those are the 19 things in my life that have changed since the pandemic started. I would love to know yours, so feel free to record a video in response to this, or just comment below with 19 things that have changed in your life since the COVID-19 pandemic. As promised, I have linked below to some resources and organizations that I have personally donated to. I hope you will consider doing the same if you are in a position of privilege and are able. I believe that it is my duty to share my abundance and blessings with as many people as I can, because we are all one. So I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.